V1. Rotate.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Flight Sim 008 video. Today I want to talk about noise, specifically as it pertains to departures, which brings us back to my usual off-topic go-to airport, Montreal Trudeau International. We'll be flying two separate departures in the Boeing 737-700. Why, you may ask, are we currently looking at a 600? Well, because I filmed this part last and selected the wrong aircraft. But look at it! It's just so adorable! All compact and stubby. Operationally, they're all identical, just with different weights, different speeds, and this one's got the cuteness factor cranked up to 11. Alright, so back to noise. Modern jets are very loud machines. Sure, jet engine technology has come a long way since the 60s and 70s, and anyone who's had the misfortune of standing near a Boeing 727 with 3 screaming JT-8Ds knows the aircraft's nickname of Whisper Jet wasn't because it was very quiet. I think I got tinnitus from that one. But despite many advances in the technology, modern high bypass engines are still ear-piercingly loud, most notably during the takeoff phase when toga power is applied. This disturbs the unfortunate residents who may live near an airport's departure path. So the wonderful people at ICAO, or the International Civil Aviation Organization, came up with a set of procedures to mitigate that noise factor on surrounding residents. Initially we had VNAPs, or Vertical Noise Abatement Procedures. There was VNAP Alpha and VNAP Bravo. A few years ago these evolved into what we have today, NADPs, or Noise Abatement Departure Procedures 1 and 2. So how exactly do these work? Well, let's have a look at the diagrams and figure it all out. It's actually blissfully simplistic. The latest procedures are classified NADP 1 and NADP 2, with the latter being more widely used. So let's have a look at it first. The procedure outlines the climb and cleanup of our flight immediately following takeoff. At a minimum of 800 feet AGL, or above ground, we initiate climb power, which already makes things quieter, then pitch down and accelerate to 3,000 feet while cleaning up the aircraft. At 3,000 feet AGL, we can further accelerate to our normal climb speed, 250 knots at or below 10,000 feet. Both procedures ensure the aircraft gains altitude rapidly, but the NADP-2 is favored by airline operators as it's more fuel efficient. NADP-1 also begins at 800 feet AGL, where we can reduce to climb power. But more importantly, continue climbing with slats and flaps extended at V2 plus 10 to 20 knots. This means we gain altitude faster because more of the thrust is aimed at going up than going forward. It's worth noting that this is less efficient because slats and flaps create drag, increasing the power needed to climb. The NADP-1 aims to get the noisy aircraft as high as possible before passing over residential areas, whereas the NADP-2 aims to be quieter overall, but over a longer distance. Most airports use NADP-2 as standard, but, for example, in Montreal, if a flight crew wishes to use NADP-1, they are free to do so. Just be sure to inform ATC of your intentions, as it does play into IFR separation, since NADP-1 departures won't get as far out as quickly as NADP-2. Lastly, 800 feet is the minimum altitude prescribed to initiate both procedures, but airline SOPs often vary, and some may use 1,000 or 1,500 AGL. Okay, so how do we set up and fly these departures? Well, let's hop back into the sim and give it a go. Alright, push is complete, so there goes the parking brake. We will turn off the packs, like so, and we'll get number 1 fired up. And starting number 2. Alright, just setting the flaps and the trim. We need about 5.6, so we'll go right around here-ishly. And the page I wanted to bring all of your attention to, on the FMC, on the takeoff ref page, we've put in flaps 5, we've got our C of G, and I've derated the ever-loving heck out of this departure just because we're so light. But if we go to the page 2 of 2, right here, I've already put in the runway wind, a little bit of a crosswind, but nothing I'm worried about. We've got runway slope of unfortunately 0 in every single FSX/ESP/P3D runway. We're looking at the acceleration height and the thrust reduction height. So WestJet's SOPs, if you will, or this aircraft with the WestJet livery, came with 1,500. We're actually going to plug in 800. This is going to be a NADP-2 departure. So we want to accelerate the aircraft, and we want the thrust reduction to come in to climb 2 at 800 feet HEL. From there, we're going to clean up the aircraft and accelerate away up to 5,000 on the SID. That's another fantastic thing about the choice of this airport, is that the SID out of Montreal is literally climbs straight ahead until 5,000 for jets, 3,000 for turboprops, regardless of which runway we're departing from. So a little bit of power, the lights are on. We're going to go back here, we're going to plug in our V-speeds. 135 is our rotate. So 135 initially up to 800 feet, then comes climb power. From there, we're going to accelerate away, clean up the aircraft on schedule up to 3,000 feet. From there, up to 250 knots, up to 5,000. I've put in a very, very, very simple flight plan. We're really just going to the Montreal VOR and then coming back in to land on one of the 24s. We've got VNAV and LNAV armed. We're going to arm the auto throttle just a little early. I'm not going to bother with the clocks and all that stuff because who cares. Runway 28, the threshold is just down here, just down Alpha. So not very far to taxi out. It's getting late. It's currently 8:36 p.m., which means everybody's putting their youngins over to bed, which means we have to be very quiet. Alright, so, taxi light was on, everything else was good. We don't have any traffic around because I'm not online for a change. And we're just going to taxi up here. This is Alpha Mike, and then all the way to the threshold we'll make a hard left. Runway 28 runs that away. In a thaterly direction, if you will. So Toga power up to 800, then that's when climb power is going to automatically kick in. We're going to see, right now the maximum is set to 86.8, that's N1 setting, that's derated takeoff 2 with a 38-degree flex. I hope I can remember that for our second departure so that we can compare. So it's not this left, this is Alpha 4 onto the ramp and onto the runway. So it's going to be right up there, that's our threshold. We're going to make a left turn, and we'll probably take it on the run, so everything on, shiny switches, you go like so, and everything else is configured for departure. A little bit too much braking here as I start the hard left onto the runway. That's fine. Nobody to impress today. So when we come out of this turn, I'm going to enable TrackIR, which is this button. There we go. And set it like so. And if we're all happy, there's 40-ish%. Noise generators are spooling up. I said I wasn't going to mess with the clock, but I am. Stable. Toga. N1 Toga enunciated. LNAV and VNAV are in white. I really have to learn to pay attention where I'm going. Anyways, there's 100 knots. I'm all over the runway, but that's okay.
V1.
V1.
Rotate.
Rotate.
V2.
Ease it off the ground. Running out of runway. Plenty of room. A little bit more of a pitch up. Gears coming up. So there's our V2 plus about 10 to 15. We're going to keep this to 800 AGL, and at 800, there's the V2 plus 20. So we're pitching for that. And there we go, 800, climb power. You can hear it's already starting to get quieter. And unfortunately for these residents, we're going to be accelerating away, pitching down to get a little bit more forward speed. We're also going more quickly over the tops of their heads, so that's always nice. Saving fuel as we clean up the aircraft now. Flaps 1. A little bit more pitch up. Only getting about 1,200 feet per minute on the climb. That's because of my D-rate more than anything else. But still, engines at 86.2% N1 are much quieter than, for example, engines at full thrust. So that's another reason that D-rates are good, and we like D-rates. And coming up to flaps up speed, so the flaps are going up. We're still keeping the same pitch, accelerating nicely. Here comes 3,000, 2,500 for 3. So we'll keep this vertical profile. Be a little bit more pitch down. There's 3,000. So now we accelerate to our final climb speed, which is 250 knots. There goes the autopilot. I was drifting off course, but that's besides the point. I'm trying to hand fly it. So there we go. And my TCAS is off. Well, it's not off. It's just in transponder and not TARA, but that doesn't really matter either, does it? So, now that the autopilot's in, we have a little bit more time to clean up the rest. And we can start making our right-hand turn direct to the Montreal VOR, which I don't even have tuned, because I'm that terrible of a pilot. There goes the sun. We're at 5,000, creating significantly less noise over these residents than if we were much, much lower. So that's the whole point of an NADP 1, or correction, NADP 2 departure. And from here, we would have already contacted our departure controller, and it would have cleared us up to the next altitude. So if we do that, and we do that, aircraft will start to climb again, eventually. Look at that pretty sky. Anyways, I'm going to come in and land back on probably 24 left, just because it's very close to where we started from. Refuel, just top off the tanks to exactly where we were beforehand. And then we'll try this again with an NADP 1. So, beginning our right turn to base leg, descending down to 3,000, we're going to start slowing up here. About 180-ish. There we go. That should also slow our descent because we're a little bit on the low side. There's the Olympic Stadium of Montreal. Airport's somewhere over there-ish. That, I believe, is St. Hubert Airport. More of a general aviation / bizjet airport south of Montreal. There's the cityscape. Just going to cut in here as we continue to slow and descend. And the engine's spooling up here because, well, CDAs are continuous descent. But, oh well, that's a story for another time. There's the runway. Autopilot's coming out. Pitch down just a skosh. I'm going to take manual control of the throttles. Checked. Still a little high. Don't really care. A little bit to the right, though. It's because we're getting a direct crosswind of about 11 knots. There we go. Still high, but that's fine. Miles of runway. And we're exiting at the other end anyway. There we go. And we'll get off here, which I think is Alpha 4. Alright, so I'm going to reset the time and top off the fuel tanks, and we'll give this another go. with the NADP 1 departure. Alright, so I've reset the time and I've topped off the tanks, so we weigh just as much as we did before. We'll go back into the takeoff rev page because there is something we have to adjust. In page number 2, I've already put the winds in, they haven't changed. Neither has the slope or the heading. So the acceleration height is going to be 3,000, with the reduction remaining at 800. So we're going to get nice and high before accelerating, and we're going to keep the slats out and the flaps out to 3,000 before we start accelerating away to 250 knots. The only difference with the NADP 1 departure. So release the parking brake, start the clock, do this. I'll plug in my V-speeds because I forgot to do that. 1, 2, 3. So 135, unable cruise altitude, don't really care. So 135 we're looking at, and we're going to climb at 135 plus about 10 to 20, so we're looking for 145 after departure to 155, and keep those slats extended and those flaps extended to 5 until we hit 3,000, then we're going to accelerate away. Swing the nose around, a little bit of power. Roll out to runway heading, 40%. And toga. In comes the power. I don't think I retrimmed. That's what I forgot. A little bit of down trim, actually. There we go. That same weird texture anomaly on this departure, that little flash you saw on the left-hand side of the screen, I saw that too. Weird. There's 120. V1.
V1.
Rotate.
V2.
Up off the ground. There we go. I'm not sure what the master...
slow.
Air conditioning. Ignore all of that. So there's 150. We'll keep it at 150. We're bang on, and we're going to climb at this. This pitch, this power setting's coming back to... there we go. There's the climb to the power reduction, 800 AGL. I'm just compensating for wind here a little bit, as that wind kicks in from right to left. But you can see the pitch is much, much more aggressive than the NADP 2 departure, and we're keeping those flaps out and the slats, so we're making more noise, but we're also getting much, much higher, much quicker for these poor residents down there who are subjected to my continuous noisy departures from CYUL. It's 2,200. Now the airport's at about 118, 120 feet above sea level. So it's not going to be at 3,000 on the actual altimeter. It's going to be at about 3,120 that we're going to start to see that bug up on our speed, and we can start to pitch down. There we go. There's 3,120, and now it's commanding us to start to pitch the aircraft down because we're much, much higher than we were last time at this point, and we're making less noise on the ground. So let's Command A. Aircraft is trying to compensate for that wind and my terrible airmanship on departure. We drifted the heading again. That's besides the point. Much, much higher, and now we can start cleaning up the aircraft. It's got a little bit more turbulent too here on the departure. Either way, a little bit less fuel efficient on that departure because we had everything hanging out from underneath the wings. Two different philosophies, one same goal, less noise for the poor residents of Montreal. Flaps coming up, And we're at 5,000. And there we go. The NADP 1 departure. And there we have it. How to depart while keeping quiet. And maybe impress an online controller in the process. Remember, every airport has its preference, but most use NADP 2 or Noise 2 departure. Don't be shy to ask. Let me know in the comments if you found this helpful in any way, or if you didn't and you really hated it. Just be sure to let me know why. I'm off to take care of my tinnitus from one too many close proximity 727 departures, so I'll catch you around. Until next time, I wish you blue skies, tailwinds, and I'll see you in the next episode.